How much time and effort do you put into each of your storyboard frames? I'm Doug Leffler, and welcome to Storyboard. Three factors determine how much time you should spend on each of your drawings: the time available to do the job, the needs of the production, and the needs of your portfolio. So let's take those in order. Time available. Storyboarding is labor-intensive. For your own well-being, you need to create a workflow that will enable you to hand in your assignments with your sanity intact. Step 1. I recommend that you rough out the entire scope of the assignment with as few lines as possible. Wait until you get a complete version of it before you go back and make any changes to solve production issues or enhance the visual storytelling. Step 2. Go back to the beginning, label everything, and add any necessary scene description. I also take this opportunity to define my arrows. Now, when you get to the end of this phase, you'll have something that, worst case scenario, you can hand it in. It won't be pretty, but it'll get the job done. In step 3, I go back and refine the outlines of my drawings. Now, I generally take a triage approach to this. I begin with the frames that need the most help, and I work outward from there until I have a complete version of the sequence at this level. Step 4 is I spot blacks, and I generally do this starting from the end and working towards the front. That way, if I don't have time to finish it, then as I'm presenting my sequence, it looks better as I go. Step 5 would be to add tone. Now, I almost never get to this stage in my professional work, but some of my peers are really good at it. Here's a sequence I roughed out for Godzilla King of the Monsters. This is step 1 of the process that I just described. These are my first pass rough storyboards. I show these to the director, and this is as far as we went. These are the storyboards that they used to make the film. And here's a scene from the second Deadpool movie. This rough storyboard is a little more refined than the previous example, but only a little. The second factor is the needs of the production. Putting the needs of the production first starts with an acknowledgement that my drawings are not the final product. The film is the final product. My drawings are a tool to solve problems and explore possibilities, and because of that, clarity is much more important than rendering. Keeping my drawings minimalistic means I can go through more iterations of a scene to try to find the best version of it. These are from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And this is going back to an earlier Sam Raimi film, The Quick and the Dead. Now, this is about as polished as my storyboards ever got on that project, but I was the only storyboard artist working on the film, and by drawing rough, I managed to storyboard every single scene. Now, sometimes the needs of the project are for presentation boards. So the difference is production boards are generally for the filmmakers, where presentation boards are for the money people. But when you have the opportunity to do presentation boards, then you can spend more time on each drawing and maybe even put some color in them. So let's talk about factor number 3, the needs of your portfolio. There are many misconceptions about the function and possibility of storyboards, even among experienced filmmakers. When looking at a finished storyboard, there's no way of knowing what ideas were dictated by the script or by the director, and what ideas were the suggestion of the artist. So all our potential employers have to go on is how well drawn the frames are and how well they communicate a progression of ideas. So after all my talk about putting the needs of the production before the needs of your portfolio, at some point you're going to need a portfolio. At some point, you're going to need to go over some of your storyboard drawings and make them presentable. Now, I think it's perfectly legitimate to do this after you've completed a job, as long as you disclose the fact that's what you did, if asked. And it's a good idea to embrace the opportunity to do presentation boards when you have the chance, just so that you have them. I'm going to show you some examples of a few projects where I've had the opportunity to spend more time drawing and shading and rendering and making shots look dynamic. As long as you understand that this isn't what most of my boards look like. So in review, remember, our drawings are not the final product. The film is the final product. Ask yourself, am I drawing for the film or for my portfolio? And consider taking the initiative to give them what they need and not what they think they want. So if you're a storyboard artist and you have aspirations of doing something else, like, say, direct, ask yourself this: how do you want your work to be perceived? Do you want producers to look at your storyboards and say, wow, that person can really solve film production problems? Or do you want them to look at your work and say, wow, that person can really render beautifully? There have been a few times when I put the needs of my portfolio before the needs of the production. And this was generally on the rare occasion where I found I didn't like the people I was working with. It hasn't happened very often. I've been very fortunate. And also I work with the same people over and over again. On those rare occasions, what I did is shifted my emphasis to draftsmanship and rendering. So instead of solving production problems or enhancing the visual storytelling, I punished them with pretty drawings.